Hello and welcome to the 335 update webinar. I'm Phil, the training manager at Clik, and today we'll be discussing two new features, one regarding domestic reverse charge and another regarding email and calendar and Office 365 integration. Okay, so what we're going to do on the agenda, so you can see today, so we're going to look at the VAT domestic reverse charge features that we put into Clik. So that will help you in terms of compliance in regards to sending those sort of domestic reverse charge invoices to customers that fall within the CIS scheme. We will then be looking at Office 365 email integration. So we'll be showing you how you can log into your Office 365 account, sign in, and then we'll also be looking at how you can search and view emails and attach attachments to job sheets, for example, or under a customer's record. And then we'll also move on to the Office 365 data integration as well. And at the end, we will have some Q&As. Now, what you should see in your dashboard for your GoToWebinar dashboard, you should see a questions tab, and you'll be able to ask any questions in there if you can. If you have any problems with your audio, please just view the your sound check. There is a sound check option that you can do, and you can check the audio from there if you need to regarding this webinar. Okay, so let's move on to the first thing that we're going to do today then. What we're going to do is we're going to look at VAT domestic reverse charge. So what we've done at Clik is we've managed to add some invoice template tags that will help you convert your invoices that can become a domestic reverse charge. So you'll be able to see kind of how much that customer has to pay the HMRC. So you'll be able to put that in, but you'll also be able to put in little bits of text that make that invoice compliant in terms of domestic reverse charge. We'll also just show you the support that we have for Sage, Xero and QuickBooks Online and how you can change those tax codes if you need to. In terms of Sage, it should be all set and ready to go. In terms of Xero and QuickBooks, you do need to map those tax codes, and we'll just quickly discuss them. And then I'll just go through how you create a domestic reverse charge. Okay, so without further ado, we're going to begin that now. So I'm going to open up my Clik and make sure it's okay. So let's just check. Okay, just bear with me 1 second. I'm just going to open up my Clik and we're going to go through it. So you should see Clik now. Now, what we're going to do is we are going to click on modules and we're going to click on, tools. We're going to click on tools and we're going to click on print template editor. And when you open up that editor, that's going to bring up this particular template and report designer. So what we're going to do is we're going to just look at maybe a default invoice. So we're going to click on, I've got an invoice already in here, but if you want to open up that template, you've got that invoice. So this is your kind of default invoice that you might have. Now, if you want to make it a domestic reverse charge invoice, you might need to add some changes in. Now, we have created a default domestic reverse charge invoice already that you can use, and that is not a problem. So you should be okay. But if you go into, if you want to edit it, I'm going to show you how you can briefly edit that. So for example, there's 3 elements that you will look to edit, and that might be a part of the table where you need to show the tax description. And it might also be, if we go scroll down this one, as I'm going to show you. So I've got one here called tax description. I've added a column into my table, and I've also added a bit of text. So you can see a bit of text here. It says customer account to HMRC for the reverse charge output tax on the VAT exclusive price of items marked reserve charge at the relevant VAT rate as shown above. So that tax description will show the relevant rate for that particular item for domestic reverse charge. So that's 2 elements. And then the third element is actually showing the total DRC calculated. And this is really just going to give that kind of customer that you're sending that invoice to how much they need to pay the HMRC. And to create these is pretty straightforward. You can just, for example, if you are in this template, you can double click on it and you'll be in the table properties, for example. I'm in my columns and I've added what we call a column called tax description and tax code description. So it will bring over that tax code description that says it's a domestic reverse charge. So that's something that you can do. Now, we do have a video on this, so you'll be able to see it. and you'll be able to, that will help you create that template. Okay, so that's the first thing you might do. And then, like I said before, the second thing is might put a text box in, and you can put your text in here. And that could be, this is the text we have, but it could be something else that you would prefer, obviously. It just needs to explain that it's a reverse charge. And then I've also put in the domestic reverse charge, and you'll see the tag here that we've put in, which is total DRC calculated. So this is what a finished sort of invoice might look like, domestic reverse charge. Now, if you're editing your current invoice, and you still want that current invoice for customers that are not a CIS, then what you might do is you just save as at the end, and then you'll notice in your save template, you can put a template name in, which you could call it domestic reverse charge. But more importantly, make sure that this tick box is ticked to say that this template is domestic reverse charge. So press OK, and that's done. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come out of that template, and I'm going to show you a few things that you might do to set up customers as well that might be domestic reverse charge. So I'm going to close this. So for example, I've got Barnes Construction Limited here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the financial tab in here. And I'm going to say that every time that we create an invoice for this customer, their VAT codes is always going to be the reverse charge VAT code. So for example, I'm going to just select 21. So 21 and 26 seem to be the default for Sage 950 and seem to be the same for Xero and QuickBooks as well. So these are the tax codes that have been created, and these will already be created for you in Clik. And in terms of Sage, as long as you've got those VAT codes set up already, then they will map directly to them. However, with Xero and QuickBooks, you will have to do something different, and we'll just explain that in a bit. So now I've set this customer, so every time I do an invoice for this customer, I'm going to overwrite product codes as well. It's always going to bring over these VAT codes that I need. So that's one thing that you might do in terms of setting those customers that are CIS, and then you can explain to them that they need to pay the VAT on those particular invoices. Right, okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to go into the settings, and we're going to talk about the tax codes as well. So I'm going to go into settings, and I'm going to settings again, and I'm going to go into tax codes and rates. So as you can see, we're going to have these two rates already predefined for you. So number 21 and number 26. So the 20% one and a 5% charge as well. Now you must make sure that you have these set up in Sage. Now, if you have Sage and you have CIS enabled, I believe that's already going to be populated for you. But if you don't have CIS, you will need to create those tax codes within your Sage accounts. So you may need to speak to Sage about how to do that, but you can do that if you need to. Right, okay, so you'll notice here as well, you do have the opportunity, if you are using other tax codes that you want to use for reverse charge, you can do that, and you can simply create new, and you can create a new domestic reverse charge, but making sure that you tick this box in here and you put the DRC rate or domestic reverse charge rate in here. So that would put the tax codes in. Okay, so that's pretty much how we're going to set tax codes up. Now, the next thing I'm going to show you what to do is I'm going to show you how I'm going to create an invoice with domestic reverse charge. So I'm going to create a brief one for Barnes Construction Limited. So I'm going to go to activity, and this is invoice. I'm going to click new and click invoice. So I'm going to do that from here. Okay, so what I'm going to do is go to click on invoice item. I'm going to click on add from products. I'm just going to click any old product, and I'm going to add that to my invoice. And we should, oh, maybe I did save the customer. Hang on, I'm just going to save Barnes Construction. We'll do that again. So I'm going to create the invoice. And when I add an item, I'm just going to add an item. You'll notice in here, here's my item, and you'll notice that the tax code is displayed, tax code 21, domestic reverse charge. And you're going to see some more information as well. So it's going to give you the domestic reverse charge rate and how much that customer needs to pay HMRC, which is £181.05. And then if we click OK, that's going to populate onto the invoice. So we can now see that on the invoice. And now what else you will see on the invoice is you will see this domestic reverse charge in here. So you will see that, and it will show that that's how much that client needs to pay HMRC. So if I'm the subcontractor, they're the contractor that needs to pay it, or the end user. you can say that's there. So what you'll notice as well, total tax is zeroed. So it's zeroed out because they're obviously not paying any VAT to you. Okay, so we're just going to save that. So that's a brief explanation how you do it. And it's the same principle in terms of posting to Sage or QuickBooks or Xero. You just go to Tools, you click onto Post to Accounts, and that will post that particular invoice to Sage line 50 in this case. So that's what I'm using. So you can see that that invoice is in there, and it will go to the relevant VAT codes, and will also sort out your VAT return. Okay, so that's what you're going to do in the domestic reverse charge. Now, what we're also going to show you is how you might print that out. So if I click on print, you'll notice when you print, it's noticed that this is a domestic reverse charge invoice because you've put a domestic reverse charge item in there. So it's automatically pulled through invoices that can print out domestic reverse charge details. So for example, I can click on this invoice here. I can click on OK, and it's going to give me those details. So I'm just going to show you that in the print preview. So you can see the tax description, we've got it there. And then if I scroll down right to the bottom, I've got the details, not the best one, that's just covered up. Let me just choose the other one. So I'm going to click on print again. Not the best example. So click on print, I'm going to click on this one instead. And that's going to show you, there you go, you've got your tax description in here. You've got the information that's saying that this is a domestic reverse charge invoice. You're also seeing that's the total amount they need to pay, no VAT, but you're also giving them a heads up is that that's the VAT that they're expected to sort out, £181.05. Okay, so that really is it for domestic reverse charge. The only thing is, I just mentioned again, is in settings. If you've got Xero or QuickBooks, you will need to set them up. It will say mapping to your Xero codes and to your QuickBooks codes. There will be more kind of columns here that say map to your Xero or QuickBooks codes, but that's all you need to do if you need to set it up with Xero or QuickBooks. Okay, so that's really it for domestic reverse charge. So without further ado, we're going to move on to the Office 365 stuff. So that's going to be the exciting bit. So let's go on to that. So what we're going to first talk about is Office 365 email integration. So we're going to talk about how you can send emails from a personal Office 365 email account, but also an Office 365 shared email account as well. We're also going to talk about how you can send your property change notifications or your automated emails through your Office 365. And we'll also talk about how you can create your email signatures from your Outlook emails as well. And then we'll also look how you can search, view, and save your emails from within the CRM and job sheets. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through that now. Okay, so let's click on here. So the first thing that you're going to need to do is you're going to need to sign in with your Office 365 account. And there's a couple of ways that you can do this. So if you're an IT administrator or you're an administrator of Clik, you might decide that you're going to go into a user and you're going to go into settings, and you go into settings and you're going to set that user up to have connection with Office 365. However, you could make it easier for yourself. What you could do is you could give those users the ability to log in with just their personal account. And I'm going to show you how that works in the permissions. So if we go into settings and we go into staff, we're going to go into Tom Broadbent, for example, and I'm going to click on login privileges. And you'll notice there's a setting that's under admin, and it's just can access Office 365 settings, but that's all they can do in terms of administration. So they can just basically manage to set up their own personal account. There is also another permission that's worth talking about, and it's whether you're going to allow that user to be able to search via the shared group email box. You might deny that access. You might say, no, I don't want this user being able to search the main shared email box that you have. Okay, so that is something that you would need to look at before you start with Office 365. So let's just take that example. So I'm going to switch to Tom Broadbent and show you what they would see. So if you decided that you want those personal users to set it up themselves, you could do that by putting those permissions. But I'm just going to log in as Tom Broadbent. So what we'll see with Tom Broadbent, as you can see here, is now when we go into settings, they now have the option of Office 365 settings. However, they wouldn't be able to go into here. It's going to populate with the username and password for an administrator to go in and go into the main settings. So that's exactly what that permission does. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to go back to Paul Benson and we're going to sign in with our Office 365 account. So what we need to do is if we go into settings, we're going to go into settings again. In this case, I'm going to go into communication and I'm going to go into my Office 365. So you can see we've got in here. Now I've already signed in with my accounts, but I'm going to show you. It's pretty straightforward how to sign in. You literally click that big button, sign in with Microsoft, and then you'll get two options. If you are the admin user, you will get these two options when you log into this setting. So you'll get the one just for you. So I'm logged in as Paul Benson at the moment. I want to log in with my particular account. I can do just for you and I can click OK and I can put in my username and password, or you may already account connected with your Office 365 with your Windows and it might already display that already, and then it will just connect. Now, word of warning though, there are some people who have Office 365 administrators that might control whether third parties are allowed to connect. What will happen is an email will be sent to an administrator and they just need to accept that process to allow that third party integration. So that might be something you need to speak with your IT about, just to make sure that they're happy that Clik will integrate with Office 365. You'll also notice with your sign in Microsoft a shared account. Now, what does a shared account do? Well, you can use this option if you have a general account. So for example, service@clicksoftware.com. And it will allow permitted users to be able to send and search emails. Won't look at diaries. That's all about the individual personal user, and we'll go through that in a bit more detail. But you'll be able to send through that shared account and search through that shared account. Okay, so once you're happy with the sign in with Microsoft, we'll just click OK just to show you what it looks like. It basically is interacting with Microsoft at this point and asking you to put your Microsoft account details in. In this case, it's showing me that I've got this one connected to Windows and I'm already signed in with my Hexstatic account. I can log in with those details. And I've also got my shared account that's training at clicksoftware.com. So once that's done, you'll notice that you've got your signed in account. So it's telling you what signed in accounts you're with. So at the moment, I've got my hstatic at 1985 outlook.com and my shared account is training at clicksoftware.com. So what that means is that Paul Benson will be able to send emails out through the hstatic account and I'll be able to send emails out through the training at clicksoftware.com account. Okay. The next thing you need to look at is your preferred email delivery method. What you're going to choose is you're going to choose your Office 365. So that would be the one that you would use. And then you'll also notice you've got send automated emails through Office 365. So these are about your property change notifications that you might have set up. If you want more information on property change notifications on our support site, there is an article and a video regarding how to do that. So you'll be able to use them if you need to know what property change notifications are, but essentially it's about sending automated emails through to customers potentially. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to click on send automated emails through Office 365 and I can say my preferred shared account for automated emails is training at clicksoftware.com. So that's something that you might do. You might say I want my shared account to send all of those emails out. Okay. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to look at signatures. So I have a signature already in here, but you can have multiple signatures if you want. So to create a new signature, you just click on new, and then let's just give an example. So this is my signature that I've created. I put a logo in, I put my details in, I put links, and you can use, you'll see up here, insert images. You can do that if you need to. And it's a good idea to put your email signatures within Clik service so you can send out with your signature. Okay, so what we're going to do next is we're going to set that as default. So that becomes my default signature. So it always populates when I want to send an email. Excellent. The next bit and the last email setting is default email search range. So basically, I only want it to search for 4 weeks, but you could increase that to 12 months if you want to, but it will only be a maximum of 12 months at the moment. So in terms of just searching speed, really managing to search for those emails. Okay, so that's pretty much how you set it up. If you need to sign out of an account, you can just click on sign out and you'll be able to sign out of one of the accounts that you choose. Okay, so that's email, and then we're going to show you now how you might search for email, how you might send an email as well. So you'll notice when you've done the update, you'll notice there's going to be these little Outlook icons everywhere. And then basically that means you can click on them and you'll be able to find the emails concerning that email address or even that domain. So for example, find emails at clicksoftware.com. So from the CRM, I could click on this, I could find emails in Office 365. It's going to search my email box from that email. It's found quite a selection of emails that I've sent to that box, or I've sent from that box to that box. Okay, but what we're going to do is I'm going to show you a little bit more detail of how it might work within a job sheet, for example. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into a job. So here's a job here. And again, you can see that I've got lots of little Outlook icons and I can find emails via the entire company. So philbanting@gmail.com is a contact in there and an email in there. And I can find emails from philbanting@clicksoftware.com and also those domains. But I can also go down to site level. So if there were different site contacts with different site emails, I could find emails via there and it would find it. But one useful feature that I find quite useful is actually finding by the customer reference. So for example, if there is an email with that reference in it, PO12345, Clik and search and find that email for you. So what we're going to do is we're going to click on that find email. And we've got it in here. So we've got inbox, sent items in inbox. So you can see that basically there is a PO12345 email in here, and that means it's related to this job potentially. So what I can do, there's a couple of things you can do in here. You can view in your browser. So if you click on that, it will open up your Office 365 account and you'll be able to see it in there. But you'll also be able to go and view in Outlook as well. So you can click on Outlook, it will populate that email. So I'll just show you what's happened there. It's just brought over my Outlook and it's showing me that particular email. So that's something that you can do if you need to. And you can also save the email as a file as well. So I can click on save email as file and I can put it into a shared drive or wherever I need to put it. So that's the potential you can have from that. But also you can save the attachments from that email as well. So I've selected that email, I can click save attachment. So there's two things I can do. I can save it directly to the documents tab. So I'm going to click on that and it will save it to the documents tab. But I also have the option if I want to save it to a file or a folder in my C drive or a shared drive that I might want to save it to. So that's what you've got in there. Okay, so the next thing is also saving that email into your communication history, or both documents and communication history at the same time as well. So I could click on here and I'll be able to go save email in documents and comms history, and that will save it into both. I'm going to put it in comms history as well now, so I've already put it in documents, but that's how you can do it. Okay, so if we close that down, let's just see how that's worked. So if we go to the documents tab, you'll now see that that attachment is in there. And if we go into the communication history, you'll now see that that email is in there too. And you can see that it's also put the body of that email in there. So it's keeping a good record about what's going on with that job, and I'm able to find those particular emails for that particular job sheet. Okay, so that's kind of searching and finding emails. Okay, so we'll talk about sending emails as well. So for example, I'm going to use the job sheet as an example again. If, for example, I wanted to send a job sheet or an invoice or whatever, it's the same principle. It's tools, you click on email, and if we do jobs with PDF, I'm just going to select one of my job sheets and it's going to populate, and you'll notice what it's going to do is it's also going to give me a preview of my signature down here. And you can see from account at the top here, and because I've got that shared account, I'm able to send via that shared account if I want to as well. Okay, and it's simply a case of just putting in the body of your email of what you want to send. Attach this job, and you literally just click on send, and then that will send out to that particular email account, and just press OK, and that's done. And that will do two things as well. That will also populate in the comms history, so you'll be able to see that sent email that's going throughout, but it's also going to be able to show you in your Office 365 account that it is in there. Okay, so that's the case. So you can either search, I think someone's asked a question about when searching for emails, can you find emails sent from others or can you find your own sent and can you only find your own sent and received emails? Yes, so you can search for ones that are part of a shared account, but you're only going to be able to search for ones that are on your personal account. So it's like your personal account or the shared account. You won't be able to search for another user's email box unless you have the permissions for that particular email and they've set that up as another personal email that you could do. So you could potentially add those personal email boxes in potentially. I'll have a look at that. Haven't tested that. But generally people keep their own personal email boxes and would use a shared account for those kind of emails that everyone wants to see. Right, okay, so that's really it for the email side of Office 365. What we're going to do now is we're going to move on to the diary integration. So we're going to talk about how you can overlay your Outlook calendar into the Clik diary. And we're going to show you how you might sync engineer planning with your Outlook calendars, and also how you set up calendar templates that can be very, very useful. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go back into my Clik, and we're going to go into settings, and I'm going to go into settings again. Not that Clik, that's the wrong one. Let's go into this one. So I'm going to go into settings again, and I'm going to click on communication and Office 365, and we're going to talk about calendars. Okay, so at the moment we've got my main hstatic@outlook.com calendar, but it will also pick up any calendars that you may have shared with that user. But remembering those calendars must be Office 365 calendars that you set up. And I'll go through how you might check to make sure that they are calendars that they should be able to see. But essentially that's going to pick up your Office 365 calendars, shared ones as well. Not shared from the email account, but shared calendars that are shared to that particular personal user. So for example, here, I've got a calendar here, I've got Office, I've got Clik 0365 calendar as well. So I've got a couple of different calendars that I can put details into. Now, one of the first tick boxes you'll see on the calendar that you select is overlay this calendar inside the Clik service diary. So that's ticked, and I'm going to show you how that works, and we'll come back into here. So if we click OK, and we click into the diary screen, you'll notice that in the diary items, there is a little tick box called Office 365 calendars. So what that's doing is that's bringing anything from Office 365 into this calendar. So that's the way you can overlay it from your Office 365 calendar, your Outlook calendar, into your Clik diary calendar. Okay, so that's the first thing that you might do. And then we're going to go back to settings, communication, Office 365. And we're going to click on calendars now, and we're going to talk about what things you could export to your Outlook calendar that's from Office 365. So what we're going to concentrate on, and I think is probably one of the most useful ones, is the job engineer planning. So the way you might use this is if you might have a service manager that has access to all of his engineers' diaries, and he has the shared access, and he can read and edit and do whatever he wants to with those Outlook diaries. And then you might want to send the information to those particular diaries. So what we're going to do is we're going to use that as an example. So as you can see here, I'm going to use job engineer planning. And the next thing I've got is category. Now, these are the colored categories that you might have on your Outlook calendar, your Office 365 calendar. And I'm going to select, for example, yellow category. Okay. And the next thing I'm going to do is also reminder. Do I want to set a reminder for that engineer planning that goes over to that Office 365 account calendar? And I'm going to say yes, always, and I'm going to put 15 minutes. Now, the next bit is very important. So you could have one main calendar that shows you every single engineer and what they're doing within one big Outlook calendar, and you could export all the data. However, you could split this into different groups. So you could say that I just want this to go into my HVAC engineers to go into this particular calendar, or it could be just one of my engineers. In this case, I am just going to do Paul Benson. So Paul Benson's engineer planning is going to go to just this calendar, not everyone's engineer planning. But if you wanted everyone, fine, you can do export all data. But I'm just going to do Paul Benson. And then I've got the status, which is basically when that goes over to my Outlook calendar, it's going to be busy. So I'm going to be busy. I won't be able to do anything else. And then last but not least is something called templates. Now I am going to put a template in. I'm going to put job planning template, but we're going to discuss about what templates are. So that's how I'm going to set up. So basically my job engineer planning is going to go to a calendar, to my HStatic calendar with just the Paul Benson engineer planning details. And it's going to go with this template that I have created. And we're going to talk about this template now. So the next tab here is calendar export templates. And you can create many different templates depending on what you want to send to your calendars. So for example, I've got calendar export templates here. If I click on new, I can open up this and I can start putting in some details about what I want to go over to my calendar entry. So as you can see in here, it's called job planning template. It's the engineer planning. So it's not a diary, it's not holiday, it's not absenteeism, it's not furlough, it's not job specific, it's the engineer planning bit. And then we've got the title. So we want the title of that particular item that goes over to Outlook to say, this is engineer planning, this is the job number, and this is the title of that job number. What you'll also notice is you'll notice the customer details here. And you'll notice what we call tag lookups. So I'm using some tags. So if we click on tag, I used the tag job number because I wanted to show the job number, and I wanted it to show the job title within the title in there. So those are the two tags that I've used at the top here. Okay, so next thing is I'm going to also put tags that I want in here as well. So I've typed in customer, and I obviously want it to display the customer name. So the engineer can go on his Outlook calendar and he can see who the customer is, but he can also look at the tag lookup. We've looked at the tag lookup and we've also put in location address as well. So that means that the engineer on his Outlook calendar will be able to see the location address as well. And also we put the engineer name, obviously that's going to be the engineer name. So we click on tag lookup, we've got engineer, and that'll populate the engineer name. And then we've also got job title again. So in the detail of that calendar entry, it's going to show the job title as well. And then also we've got something really cool, that's the Clik remote URL. So what this means is if you've got Clik remote and they're on that Outlook calendar, they can click on that diary item for the engineer schedule, and they can click on the job number and it will open up their Clik remote with that particular job sheet. So it could be a quick and easy way for them to be able to get to that particular job. And I'm going to show you how that will work. So that's really the Office 365 calendar templates. And you can use this, obviously I'm using it for engineer planning, but it could be that you want to export diary items from Clik into Office 365 calendars. You can do that if you need to, holidays, absenteeism, furlough, and just jobs as a whole. So if you wanted a big calendar that shows all jobs, you might use that tick box in here. But I think this will be quite a good use case. So I'm going to show you how that works now. So what we're going to do is I'm going to press OK, and I'm going to go into my Outlook 365 calendar so you can see it. So you can see in here, we've got some diary items that are populated. So I'm in my calendar, HStatic 1985 at outlook.com, and I've got two calendar entries in here, and you can see that I've got my dentist item in there. But if I click on that engineer planning, you'll notice that it has my link, view job 317 in Clik remote. All I need to do as the engineer, if I've got that detail, so it's giving me the detail of the location, it's giving me engineer planning, I can click on that, and that'll actually open up the job in Clik remote. So at the moment it's just come into Clik remote, but I'm just going to sign in, and then you'll see it directly go to that particular job. So I'm going to press a login. That's going to go straight to that job sheet. So it's gone straight to that job 317, and then I can go in there and I can start editing that particular job. Okay, so that is pretty much how you can set your diary up with Office 365. And how you can create templates. Now, what we do have is we do have quite a lot of knowledge-based articles and videos that have gone through everything that I've been through and a lot more depth, definitely in terms of domestic reverse charge and setting up your templates and stuff like that. So you can go through those videos, and we will send those links. And also we've got lots of articles on the Office 365 diary integration and email integration as well. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to basically, if you can tell us what you think at the end of this webinar, about how it went, and maybe what other features you would like to see in regards to Office 365, because there is Teams, there is OneDrive. You know, if we can connect with that, you might find that quite useful. Let us know what you think. However, what we're going to do now is we're going to go through a couple of questions. There haven't been too many questions. There's been two. So we've got one here that who is responsible to make sure the client has paid the reverse tax? I think it's up to them. I believe you might need to speak to an accountant on this. I'm not an accountant, but I believe once you said it, so if I'm the subcontractor, I'm passing that on to the main contractor to sort out that tax, and it's probably them that will do it to the end user. It's the end user that will pay that VAT. It's something that they would arrange. Okay, Holly. So we've got a question here. When searching for emails, can you find emails sent from others, or can you only find your own sent and received emails? Well, yes, that's true. So I think we already talked about this. So basically, you can only search for your personal emails, and if you've got access to be able to search the shared email box. You won't be able to search for other personal email addresses unless you maybe connect those personal accounts to your Office 365. Will this session be available for others to watch in their own time as they're on site whilst this is taking place? And I think they would benefit from it. And how would they be able to access it? Rianne, at the end of this session, we will be sending you an email to a link to it, and you can forward that on to whoever you want to. We will be putting it onto a website as well. Okay, so we've got another question. Hi, can you send all invoices from a generic email address from multiple PCs? Well, what you could do, Christopher, if you have a shared account, then you would be able to send that email from that shared account if you've got Office 365. That wouldn't be a problem. You wouldn't be able to send in one bulk though. You would have to obviously still send those invoices individually. You wouldn't be able to bulk send them. Wouldn't be able to do that. Hi, can we share the OneDrive and other cloud-based drive? That's a great question. That's something that we are, hopefully, there's going to be a little survey at the end of this, and you'll be able to put your comments in. But that's something I would like to see. I definitely would like us to see link with OneDrive. It will probably make things a lot smoother in terms of Clik Remote as well when you're sharing things. And it would be that space that you fill up rather than the actual database within Clik. So that's something we are definitely going to be looking at doing. Can you send a job sheet directly to the engineer? Absolutely. I'll just show you how to do that. That's something you can do already. So we'll just go into a job, for example. If I go into a job in here, you will actually notice when you click on engineers, I'll just add an engineer quickly for this job. You'll actually notice you've got an email button that's just down here, and that would actually email the engineer. So as long as you've got the email details of that particular engineer, that will send out that email through them, and it will obviously send out through your Office 365 account as well. So you would be able to do that. Okay, so that's something you could do. Okay, that's it for questions so far. Let's check to see if there's any more. That seems okay. Sometimes what happens when I close down this webinar, some other questions have quickly sneaked in, but we can get back to you via writing to you. An email, and we can send that answer to you. Another question. Okay, will the access to OneDrive be available on Clik Jobs as well as Clik Remote? I'll be honest, it's very early days. I wouldn't be able to tell you that. I would imagine it'd be okay with Clik Remote. I wouldn't be too sure about Clik Jobs, but we'll hopefully get back to you about that. That's something we would definitely like to see with the access to OneDrive. Okay. So let us know what you think. There is a survey at the end, should hopefully give us some ideas about what you might want to see. Office 365 is very big. There's lots of other elements to it. So I'd be very interested to hear your feedback. If you want to get in touch with us, if you need to know more, then you can go to, you can ring us on 0117 902 2012, and you can email us at hello@kliksoftware.com. But thanks for watching, everyone, and hopefully you've learned something today for the new update that we've just released. Okay, thanks very much for listening.